let's just dive into it. Oh no, and it's going to be on the test, and I've already forgotten. I think yesterday he played video games, saw a dead body, and was creepy towards women. So, it was great. The math teacher. What was their name again? Well, it didn't matter. Left the room, and the school day came to an end. The other students were all talking about where to go after school, or heading off to their clubs or teams. Most of them immediately got ready to go home. Normally, as soon as the last chime rung, I would put my things together and go home. But today I stayed in my seat, trying my best to not look at any of the other students. He's going to pre-order a figurine with the only girl in history who's interested in talking to him. Normally, a date with a girl would be a WKTK situation? Wuktuk. Wuktuk. I hate those wuktuk. I'm assuming that's walk and talk. But for me, for today, it was just depressing. Let me see, is that in the tips list? What is wuktuk? Mid-2000s Japanese net slang for hopeful and excited. What? I'm trying to think of... Dude, shut up is here, really? A phrase used to tell someone to shut up you don't fucking say. What? Kitkur? Kitakore? It's here. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess a phrase used by 2000s era Japanese otaku when everything was going their way. Because they can't just say kore desu. Whatever. Fucking otaku. Yeah, it's just depressing. My nerves were all jittery. My stomach hurt. I'd never agreed to go anywhere with a girl. And I didn't know what to do. Would she even come? Maybe the whole thing yesterday was a prank and she was watching me from the shadows and laughing, I thought. In a way, that might be better if she actually did come. Wait. Did I even need to wait for her at all? Couldn't I just ditch her and go home? Yeah, that was the way. That is not the way. She was in a different grade than me anyway. If I ditched her here, we'd never meet again. I made my decision and stood up. Oh, great, this fucking guy. Someone slapped me on the back. Hard. I didn't need to turn around to see who it was. The only person in the class weird enough to talk to me was Misumi. I'm glad you said his name, because I sure as shit forgot it. Takumi Sonic Boom Dash. Sonic Boom. He's going home. That's none your business. How did you know? How'd you know? You see, Takumi, you are as predictable as the sunrise. Easy to read as a picture book. He was perceptive. Yeah, that's what I've gotten from this character so far. Perceptive. Don't forget, Takumi, your goal is to stand out at school as little as possible. You have to be like the air itself. Did I already make the joke about that being what Bruce Lee said? I probably did. Crap. Misumi wasn't a bad guy, but he could be really annoying at times like this. Read the room, jerk. I love that read the room is a tip. You gotta, like, I understand looking up Wuktuka, but Wuktuka I need to know what Wuktuka is, but read the room. Come on. Read the room, Chaos Head. Uh-oh, Nishijo-kun. Everybody in the class goes, what? She looks a little off balance. That makes sense. She didn't fall, I fell. I turned toward the voice, feeling sheer terror. Look at that. Horrifying. Yua was standing timidly at the door. Oh gosh, timid. Be afraid. Oh no. Oh no. Thanks to Misumi, I'd lost my chance to run away. Yeah, there he is. Stuttering like a crazy man. It might have been the first time I'd seen Misumi freak out like this. He wrapped an arm around my shoulder, pulled me in close, and looked me in the eye. You know something? Every girl I've ever dated, when my friends found out, you know how they responded? Alright. None of them cared. Only in fiction. I told him 1,000 times I didn't have any interest in 3D girls. He seems pretty alright with it. You're Hey Kikamori, where did you meet a girl that hot? Are you fucking kidding me? I'm here in this building. What the? Where did you find a high school girl? High school boy? High school. He grabbed me by the jaw and shook me for a second before finally letting me go. Is she just standing there watching all of this like, what the fuck? Yeah, ganbare, get the fuck out of my life. Misumi wasn't listening to me. He was all excited now and slapping my back harder than before. Ugh, he was definitely teasing me. Yeah, I'm sure this is Mr. Steal Your Girl here. He pushed me in her direction, and I began to slowly walk forward. I guess I didn't get to run away after all. It's a huge problem. I was trying to ditch you. It sure as hell was. I looked back at Misumi and he was grinning and giving me the finger. Which finger? Or the fun one? I couldn't tell if he was cheering me on or trying to start a fight. There was no point in trying to deal with him anymore, so I decided to just leave the school. I have nothing else to say to anybody. Switch locations. No, you really shouldn't. It's a distinct lapse in judgment on your part. Some ellipses going on. I was really nervous. Me leaving school with a girl like a Ryuju, like a popular kid? I thought this was a world I'd never have anything to do with. Fucking Christ. Otaku slang for someone whose real life, Ria, is fulfilling jujitsu and fun. Oh. Okay, so that's jujitsu. Ryuju will always have a girlfriend, lots of friends, and perhaps be on a sports team. That sounds like a fulfilling life. Alright. I never thought it would happen to me. How could this happen to me? But right now there seemed to be an intense aura radiating from her. We were just walking side by side. Why did I feel so nervous? I still didn't know who she was or what she wanted. What would she want with a creepy otaku like me? That's a great question. Dude, he fucking screamed like she stepped on his tail. She started talking out of nowhere, so I got surprised and said something weird sounding. You just yelled. She seemed to be nervous too. Her expression was tense. She was older than me, but actually quite innocent. It was pretty moe. Yeah, girls don't ever get nervous talking to boys. That's just not supposed to happen. Fiction never taught me that. Not that I could do much more than glance at her every so often. I was too embarrassed to look her in the eye. You gotta be really into all the lore to understand a series like Bloodtoon. Oh, no, somebody's gonna have to introduce her to the concept of plot holes. That's just lazy writing. Oh, he loves foreshadowing. As a writer, he just loves it. It's one of his favorite literary devices. Thank God I didn't get to hear. Thank God I didn't have to hear all of why he likes this fucking guy. I started lecturing her, I bet she loved that, on anime. And the next thing I knew, we were at Animite. We'd gotten here much faster than I expected. I'd gotten really excited and talked too much again. Yua was a great listener. Whenever I showed off some random piece of knowledge, she'd act really interested. I knew this whole thing was a trap, but I kept talking anyway. You ain't gonna get me to shut up. I'm so bad at speaking, and this had never happened before. It felt like chatting online. It was kind of weird. Talking to girls is like chatting online, but with a girl standing in front of you. That's crazy. You should feel nervous. You should feel more nervous than he does. No, she had you fucking scouted. She went up to the clerk with an expression of intense nervousness on her face and ordered the Sarah post-awakening version figure. All I did was stand back and watch. I kept looking for a chance to run away, but she kept shooting nervous glances at me, and I couldn't move. Afterward, at her request, I showed her around the store. She was happy to find all kinds of things she might want to buy, but I didn't have the energy left to smile back at her. Yua came to school by train, so I was forced to go with her to Shinsen Station. She might look like an airhead, but she wasn't. Just so incredibly rude. Whenever she wanted something, she knew just how to make me give it to her. 2000s era net slang for a person with a black-hearted personality. Specifically, someone who is friendly and kind on the surface, but in their heart harbors malice toward others. Certain people, mostly otaku, find this gap between surface personality and inner thoughts to be very moe. Yeah, okay. She suddenly asked me that, just as we got to the station. A phone, huh? I shook my head, slightly sad. How am I going to be able to track your movements? I get to put Find My Phone on there so I can always see where you are. Contact me for what? Are you going to keep bugging me instead of leaving me alone? I don't use email. I just let 200,000 1,000 of those things pile up. You have to be here to help me buy a figurine. Anime 8. Anime 8. Clever girl. She was a clever one. Oh yeah, what did he... I couldn't say no, I'd be a bad guy. 3D girls are truly terrifying. Look at that face, like, that's a crazy face. Like, I hate this dude, but he's kind of right. Like, they made her eyes way too big with that smile. She's like... I can't even do like a good facsimile of it because I can't get my eyes that wide. Was it just that I wasn't used to talking to people, or was she just a master persuader? She's the master persuader, brother. Oh my god. It felt like she wasn't going to go home until I gave her my email address, and yet she seemed nervous as she looked up at me from behind her glasses. For some reason, I felt my will to resist draining away. My skin felt clammy, and a cold chill was running down my spine, but I couldn't run away or say no. That is a sentence in regards to him giving a girl his email address. There was something strange about you, something that wasn't normal. Who emails? I couldn't explain what exactly wasn't normal about her, but she definitely wasn't normal. I mean, look at her. Clearly she's deranged. The next thing I knew, I'd written my email address on a scrap of notebook paper and handed it to her. She looked happy as she took it, then bowed and disappeared into the station. You know, she's selling your fucking data, dude. You about to get a bunch of spam. She gonna sign you up for fucking erectile dysfunction pills, and the crown prince of Nigeria is about to send you a fucking email tomorrow. I stood there for a solid 10 minutes with a blank look on my face, like my soul had drained out of my body. Man, I can't wait for the science adventure to start. What would you think about a girl like that? I don't know what to do. I mean, it feels like she's up to something. She has to be. Hey, are you listening, Grim? What's the name of this H game? That night, I asked Grim about Yua. It felt like I wasn't getting anywhere on my own. But that was the answer I got. To be fair, this was the same reaction I had the first time I talked to her. I was an idiot to ask you in the first place. Wait, lol, you're serious? Man, you're such a lucky bastard. I didn't think you had it in you. I thought you said you weren't even into 3D girls. It's not like that. Grim was reacting just like Misumi. Maybe the two of them are actually the same person. Well, guys like you, Nightheart, who've never dated a girl in your life, often quit being otaku the minute you get a girlfriend. Your girlfriend's not going to like those 10-minute monologues about school swimsuits. I mean, really. That is, you know what? That is solid advice. Although, I gotta say, you can, because they exist, you can date women who have interest in anime. So. You don't have to quit being a freak if you find someone who matches it. I prefer competition swimsuits to school swimsuits. Whatever that face is supposed to be. That's not the issue. Huh. I just heard Seraton's voice. I'd set that voice to play whenever I got an email. I looked over at my inbox and the sender's name was Yua Kusunoki. Oh, he fucking straight up said, wah. He sounded like Hank Hill there, boy. Oh. Oh. I got an email just now from the anonymous Raw general manager. Dude. Okay. An email from a 3D girl. I'd never gotten one before. I gulped and opened it. Alright, let's see. Hello, this is Yua Kusunoki. Sorry for sending you an email out of the blue like this. It would make me very happy if you saved my email address in your contacts lists. Sorry. I don't know what that is. Sorry for bringing you along with me today. But it made me very happy. Maybe because I'd never been to a store like that before. Or I think it was because I was with you, maybe? Lol. What time are you coming to school tomorrow? Oh, the reason I'm asking is I want to say hello in the morning, kinda. I hope we run into each other tomorrow, even if it's just by chance. Bye. I could probably get rid of the text in the way, but something you and... Oh, I'll send you another email later. Good night. I don't know what that one is at the bottom. You could sense her elegance. Yeah, that's what I get from that email. Elegant. And feminine is definitely a feminine. This is a feminine email. I could tell. Look at that use of lol and words, contacts lists, and this definitely came from a woman. But the emojis also made her feel friendly and approachable, unlike women. But it was because I was with you, Nishijo, and I want to say hello in the morning. It felt like she might be plotting something. Yeah, she's plotting to say hello. Show me what it said. It's totally normal. Basically just a hello. Oh. Okay, so Grim was being obnoxious, so I decided to type in the whole message for him. Of course, I didn't type in our personal information. What is this? It feels like she's head over heels for you. Die in a fire, Nightheart. Help me out here, man. It's some kind of trap. Right. It's all a big conspiracy. You're overthinking things, aren't you? You're almost at the good ending. Yes. I mean, this is impossible. I'm a creepy otaku. Well, at least he knows. Self-awareness is important. Why would a cute girl from the real world want to date me? Well, I don't know how to tell you this, but you're the protagonist in a visual novel. LOL, dude, you're just bragging now. Help me out here. Ah. Calm down, you're just overthinking things. She and you have a lot in common, right? There aren't many nice girls like that left. I knew that, but she was too nice. It was creepy. The only two nice ones exist in my head. Calm down, you're just overthinking things. Let's see. I mean, the stalker stuff at the start was a little much, but that just goes to show how much she likes you, right? She's an anime fan, right? She's like the ideal GF for an otaku, anyway. Get her to go along with all your weird-ass fantasies. That actually sounds pretty appealing. Of course you would think so. Listen. All it takes is discussions. You will find any person you meet. It doesn't matter who it is. Any person you meet, everybody's got some freak in them. And you just gotta find out what it is. And you never know. Your shit might match. And whatever kind of weird shit you're into, they might be like, fuck, alright. But no, this only happens to otaku, so. How many fucking data folders does he have on his computer? Sound data, sound data, sound data, sound data, data CG, data PH, Miku file. He's got Hatsune Miku on his computer there at the bottom left. That's crazy. I'm not into 3D girls. Yeah, right. You want to date her really badly, right? And this is your chance to stop being an otaku. You'll never get another chance like it, I'm sure of it. If you don't do this now, your life is over. I mean, fuck, you're 17. You know, if it doesn't go your way now, you might as well just, I guess, just die. Stop being a wimp and go for it. Be like Neidhart, but in the real world, go for it. If only I could. Life would be so much easier. If only I was my video game avatar. Oops. It could be fun and make me happy, but it was also exhausting and a pain in the butt. If it was that hard, I'd be better off living in a peaceful, relaxing life with duty girls. So, I decided not to answer Yua's email. I hate this dude. In fact, I burned my whole computer. The fire was burning. This fire. Because we've been through the darkest days. This fire burns always. Long tongues of flames danced within the incinerator. Inside it, a sailor uniform and several textbooks were being burnt to ash. A house in the foothills, overlooking the Seto inland sea. In the distance, you could hear the whistles of the ships. A salt breeze gently shook the trees around the house. Now she's in the golden dream. Despite her idyllic surroundings, the small girl in front of the incinerator, Kozue Orihara, was in a miserable state. Pictured here. Her eyes reflected the red light of the fire as she watched the sailor uniform and the textbooks burn to ash in the incinerator. Here we are again, repeating the same words. Until yesterday, that had been her uniform, and those had been her textbooks. You could just say they were hers. She was the one who had put them in the incinerator, but she must have still felt some attachment to them because she kept staring at them. She looks like she's still wearing a sailor uniform. No, never mind. No, she's not. She's wearing the suime. I mean, it's a tough background. She's wearing a beige. She's wearing beige on a beige background. Suddenly, she winced in pain and put her hands tightly over her ears so she couldn't see the flames anymore. She is not wearing the suime thing. Her hair looks like ribbons. She opened her mouth, but that was all she could do. She couldn't moan or cry. All she could do was gasp for breath. She kept shaking her head as if begging for something to stop. Then she collapsed, falling onto the ground. She looked up, exhausted, at the sky. She stayed there, unmoving, for several minutes. And then, suddenly, she turned around. She was staring at the house's veranda. The house was made of wood. It sure is. And 50 years old. Over 50 years old. Even though it was still daytime, much of the veranda was shrouded in deep shadow, leaving it in darkness. She slowly staggered up and walked toward it. Just then, her mother appeared, as if she'd been waiting. Oh, she did have all of her things together. Kozue nodded and sat on the veranda. Yeah, we're gonna burn that shit too. Her mother stood behind her and looked at the peaceful Seto Sea. I hope it sucks. I hope you hate it. Kozue didn't reply to her mother's kind words. She didn't shake her head or nod. She just stared sadly at the incinerator in the corner of the yard and the flames that still rose from it. Okay, anyway, back to the fucking creep. It was a week after, on a school day, as usual, I headed to school in a gloomy mood, staring down at my feet as I went. Fall was clearly at hand. The trees in Shoto Park were changing colors, and I was starting to feel cold in my short-sleeved shirt. Since I spent almost all my time in my room, it always felt strange when the seasons changed. You are in a shipping container. That shit ain't insulated. Still felt like summer to me. I'd spent the whole weekend playing ESO. Grim kept asking about Yua, but I just ignored him. Yua hadn't sent me any more messages. Maybe she'd given up when I hadn't replied. I certainly hoped so. Whenever I talked to her, I always felt myself wavering. I started to feel hope. Leave now while you still have hope. But there was no point in it. This guy's going to become the master from the original Fallout. You mark my words. There's no point in a creepy otaku like me having hope. I'd lived my whole life without ever having hope fulfilled. That's why I'd lost interest in 3D girls. Please don't make me hope. Please don't have any hopes for me. Seriously, all joking aside, this fucking guy needs therapy. Suddenly, someone patted me on the shoulder from behind. I turned around expecting to see Nanami or Misumi, but was surprised. Oh my god, it was the only other character in the story. Her cheeks were a little flushed, and she was smiling at me. For some reason, she was out of breath. You just gotta wonder how sad her life is. Hadn't she given up? Did she still have hopes for me? Yes, yes, Ohio. Remember, they met because he got run over by a scooter. I don't know why I love this post so much. By the time I realized I'd nodded, it was too late. Oh, thank goodness, you were being intensely rude. Oh, yoroshiku shine, yeah. What did she want me to do? Was I supposed to fall in love with her? Be her boyfriend? And then were we supposed to be a happy loving couple? Get married, have kids, buy a house, get a yard, get a dog, die? You know, life. Impossible. That kind of thing was for other people, not me. I wanted to do it, but there was no way I could. I still don't understand why Yua liked me anyway. I couldn't trust her. So it was just impossible. I have a tendency not to trust the people who like me either. What are they hiding? Yeah, is something wrong with you? I started walking fast to leave her behind, but she jogged to catch up with me. I mean, I feel bad for her because this guy's a prick, but also, take a hint, come on. I went to your class the other day, but you weren't there. Jesus. I don't like it here. Yeah, that really sets in when I tell him I'm a fucking figurine collector who lives in a shipping container. You're disgusted, aren't you? You learned who I really am, and now you don't like me anymore, right? That's fine. I never expected anything in the first place. Go ahead, think I'm creepy, and then just leave me alone. What will it take to get this girl to hate him? Does he have to, like, be, like, actually, like, do something really repulsive? Like, I found myself staring into her smile. Our eyes met, and then I quickly lowered my gaze. To her smile, right? Why wasn't she treating me like she thought I was creepy? That's true. Get him on that definition. What's really hard? Actually, don't answer that. I don't want to know. Impressive, huh? That wasn't something I ever expected to hear. What was impressive about a loser like me? Seriously. Yua smiled gently at me. It was a smile that could heal a wounded heart. That's how it felt to me. You come to school not because it's easy, but because it is hard. Most people would just come if it was... just wouldn't come. What? Why was she telling me all this? Why did it feel so good? I love being praised for my flaws. It felt like she was holding me in a warm embrace. Or like she was telling me that it was okay for me to be here. Maybe with her help I could go back to being a normal person. Suddenly, I realized that there were barely any students left around us. They'd all gone inside the school building. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I count 10 other students outside the building, not including the two of you. So all y'all's late. Especially those background characters. I ain't getting on the damn train. You're out of your mind. She spoke softly and carried a big stick, her cheeks turning a little red. I ain't going there. Perfect, because I ain't gonna. Bye-bye. She bowed politely and headed off to the third-year wing. As I watched her go, I pinched my cheek. Just as I thought, this wasn't a dream or a delusion. I spent the whole day's worth of classes in a daze. I don't think I heard a single thing the teacher said. I just rested my chin on my hand and stared out at the autumn sky. Neither my classmates nor the teachers paid the slightest bit of attention to me. But Yua paid attention to me. She wasn't like the rest of those assholes. These Asholas. I sat there the whole day thinking about her and indulging in one delusion after another. And before I knew it, school was over. One girl starts talking to him and he's fucking drooling all over the place. Fuck this fucking guy. Neat? He's not a neat. Again, I'm with Yua on the definition thing. He's not a hikikomori and he's not a neat. He's just a loser. I will not argue that. Can't argue that. Why are you yelling at me? Oh, fuck me, dude. Yeah, fucking for real. Grow the fuck up. You're 17. That's not what I meant. Anyway. Misumi only cared about sleeping with girls he wouldn't understand. He only cares about... I fucking hate characters like that. I ran past a confused-looking Misumi and quickly left the classroom. The fastest way to get to the courtyard from the second-year classrooms was to go across the connecting corridor to the third-year students' building and then head down the stairs, at least as far as I knew. Is this information that the audience needs? I guarantee you this isn't going to come up again. I didn't come to school that often, so I didn't know what led where. I didn't even know where some places, like most of the special classrooms, were. So I was a little nervous when I went down the connecting corridor. Oh boy. A character with a sprite, you know, she's important. There was a girl standing in the middle of the corridor, staring up at the sky. She had a very stern expression on her face. She didn't seem lost in thought or anything like that. She was clearly in a place that would block traffic, but she wasn't moving at all. Come on, I know you hear my footsteps getting closer. Get out of the fucking way, I'm in a hurry. I editorialized a little bit there. I'm assuming he's frustrating. We're role-playing. For some reason, she felt like a DQN. I needed to make sure not to get closer, or let her notice me. All stern women are delinquents, according to Nishijo Takumi. Just as I tried to walk past this girl, who I'd decided to call Girl B. Well, she can't be graduated to Girl A since you have a name for Girl A?
Oi.
Crap. She talked to me. Was she going to mug me? Was she going to say she didn't like my face and then take me to her group of DQN friends so they could beat me up? Ugh, we can only hope. Please no. What did I ever do to you? She does look like she's trying to make a fist, but she's only got, like, the top of it. I glanced over at her to find she was glaring at me. She sounds like an old lady. I wasn't sure how to answer that. I was Takumi Nishijo, obviously, but I never met this girl, so there's no way she would know that. She must be planning to do something really terrible to me. I bowed quickly, being careful not to look at her, and then ran away at top speed. Then she clubbed me with a spiked bat, and I died instantly. I ran down the staircase, in the third-year wing and out the doors, then glanced behind me. The scary girl didn't seem to have followed me. Phew. The 3D world is an awful place. There were traps everywhere. I took a few deep breaths, looked around the courtyard. The courtyard was between the pool and the school building, and was really more of a corridor than a yard. There were flower beds placed at regular intervals, where purple flowers bloomed. I could buy you a garden where your flowers can bloom. What were those flowers called? I don't know. I'll just give up on that. Why even bring it up? What are those flowers? Fuck, who knows? You don't want to guess. You don't want to just be like, I don't know, they're just fucking roses. I don't know what they are either, but I would say something. Pretend I knew what I was talking about, even in my inner monologue. I saw Yua standing in front of one of the flower beds, staring down at it while she waited. She was really here. She was really waiting for me. Not for anybody else, just for me. Yua wasn't going to betray me. Everybody betrayed me. I fed up with this world. Maybe I could believe in her after all. Maybe she could save me. Yua looked up and noticed me. Senpai noticed him. And then her eyes went wide in surprise. I stood there, looking away in embarrassment. I didn't know if it was okay to walk up to her or not. Was she surprised? Did I mess up by coming? As I tried to figure out what to do, she ran up to me.
びっくりしました。西条くんが本当に来てくれるなんて。どうせ来てもらえないって諦めかけてたんです。でも待っててよかった。
Oh my god, I was surprised. She might have the same kind of mentality I did. The kind that was pessimistic about everything. Pessimism is what that's known as. But there was one big difference between Yua and me. I was pessimistic and didn't do anything. Yua was pessimistic but took action. That was something I really respected about her. This girl I've known for literally 3 days. I wanted to be that way too, I thought.
一緒に
It'd be very funny if he just said no. Go through all of this and just be like, you know what, on second thought, nah. I nodded in response to her question. She and I headed for the school gate together. I felt kind of embarrassed. As we walked home, it felt like the other students were shooting me jealous glances. I mean, most everybody in the background here appears paired up. So who's jealous? The more I started to notice people staring, the more I started to freeze up. I should have known there was no way I could walk home with a girl. Unless she's like a known serial killer and they're like, oh, she got another one. Oh, fuck. Fucking jump scare. Jesus Christ. I passed by a teacher I didn't recognize. Actually, the only reason I thought they were a teacher was that they were wearing a suit. But did we have any teachers that young? I rarely came to school, so of course I didn't know who our teachers were or what they looked like. Sometimes I even forget my homeroom teacher's face. The teacher in the suit looked around, seemingly lost, before heading toward the school building. I quickly shook my head and started walking alongside her again. Man, nothing that I give a shit about, apparently. As you do. The base was 10 minutes away from school, which was a bit further than the train station at Shinsen Yua used to go home. So, I guess I was walking her home instead of the other way around. Out of sheer habit, I walked us through Shoto Park. Cutting through it diagonally shaved a minute or so off the commute. That's not good. She shouldn't know that. Maybe she is a bit of a stalker. How did she know? Like, what is it about this guy that stands out? It was like, oh man, I was walking by a bench one day, I saw you eating a fucking Pop-Tart, and I was like, man of my dreams. You finally figured it out. What do you mean you finally figured it out? I told you the answer. You didn't figure out shit. You didn't deduce nothing. Yua suddenly stopped and looked over at the bench where I always ate breakfast. Right now, it was empty, because it's not breakfast time. It's the only time this bench gets used. You looked so sad. She suddenly leaned forward, just a little, and ran her fingers across the back of the bench. Oh my god. You know, they call this the Science Adventure series? The bench was right in front of the fence surrounding the lake. Since I always sat facing the lake, I didn't need to worry about anyone gazing at me. You could have just said you worried about anybody meeting eyes, making eye contact. There was also a small watermill right next to it, which was another reason I liked it. It served to partially hide me. Hide me. Hide yourself. Really? I hadn't noticed her watching me at all. You just said because you were looking in another direction. Christ, this fucking guy. Why would you want to? I just saw you sadly eating breakfast on a bench and figured it was my deal. Like, you do not have to do anything for this fucking guy. So that was why she was acting like a stalker. She wasn't. But she was. That's why she was acting like a stalker, because she wasn't a stalker. She looks like she's trying to smoke a cigarette, but forgot it. So I left my marbs at home. I didn't really have a reason to say no. I nodded, still looking out at the lake. She put her bag on the bench and then quietly sat down. Then she sat upright, with good posture, looking at the lake. It was so quiet, so peaceful, and she was right there with me. The soft wind made ripples on the water and gently rustled through her hair. Was this what it was like to have a normal life? sitting on benches watching water. It was just a normal day, a normal situation, a perfect situation. Singing, oh. So why did it feel like I was about to cry?
ここで朝食をとるのって気持ちよさそうですよね。
I watched her from the side as she quietly spoke. If we were in an H game, this would totally be when I asked her to be my girlfriend. She'd say yes, we'd kiss, and that would be the good ending. Depending on the route, maybe we'd even engage in some naughty outdoor fun. I was about to say, if it were an H game, y'all be fucking.
私も今度やってみようかな。
You can't fool me. Maybe I'll try it too sometime. What, fucking? She tilted her head to look up at me, unable to speak. I turned my gaze toward her bag. Oh, she wasn't one. He's the one unable to speak. I don't know. Sometimes this font, I read things a little too quickly. As I stared at the 3 Garo froggy straps on it, I cursed myself for being too lame to talk to a girl. I don't like those benches that have those middle rungs. This is just anti-homeless design. Just fucking malicious architecture. Oh, those 3 frogs. She was in the internet cafe. She'd been watching him. Is she like fucking Shining Finger in Steins Gate? She's like, I'm just here to fucking watch you. I'm actually a bad guy. Wait a second. Did I just see something? What was I looking at? Garo Froggy, a character popular with high school girls. I'd seen it somewhere before. Where? I didn't understand. So I think those little moments are the delusion triggers, and I think you get different endings. I don't know how to activate them because I tried doing it last time and it didn't really work. So I'm just going to go through base storyline. I have decided. For the purposes of the stream, that's what we're doing. This game's like 20 years old. I don't care to play through it and get a billion different endings. I'm just going to play through normal style. Just want to get that out of the way early. I had the sense of deja vu, but I couldn't. Of course, I could look all this stuff up on how to do it properly, but I kind of want to play this game straight, like as if I were going into it blind, which I technically am. But I played enough of the science adventure games. I know you have this bullshit that you can do in the early ones to adjust the endings, but fuck it. We playing it lazy style. Was my memory always this bad? I was pretty good at memorization. I always got good grades on my tests. I was pretty smart. So why? Why couldn't I remember something so important? At least it felt important. Where had I seen them? If I looked at them closer, maybe I could remember. I wasn't sure what would happen if I did remember, but to escape from the awful feeling of not knowing, I almost unconsciously reached out my hand towards toward this 3 straps. Yua suddenly knocked my hand away. Huh? Huh? As I stared in shock, she looked away from me and awkwardly tried to stand up from the bench. Her hand brushed against her bag, the bag with the 3 Garo froggy straps. And as if I was watching in slow motion, the bag fell slowly from the bench and landed on the ground. It hadn't been zipped up, so her notebooks and textbooks went spilling everywhere. Whoops, I'm a klutz. Just a few minutes ago, I would have thought the whole scene was very moe. But now all I could do was stare in shock because, by chance, one of the notebooks that fell onto the ground had fallen open, and the small memos and newspaper clippings in it had scattered everywhere. It must have been some kind of scrapbook, because all the clippings and memos had to do with one subject. Algebra. I could see it clearly. New gen. There's the music. I was supposed to say, now would be a great time for some creepy music to kick in. My voice was hoarse. She was hurriedly trying to pick up the clippings and notes and stuff them back into her bag. Oh no. He's found out that I like true crime. She stood up, holding it tightly to her chest. Her smile was gone, replaced with an awkward expression. She didn't answer me. Why won't you answer me? Come on, say something. If you don't answer, I'll think you're hiding something. And just when I was about to believe you, just when I thought you were going to be on my side, just when I was starting to believe that. Seda was right all along. All 3D girls were garbage. Again, he's basing that on the fact that she has newspaper clippings about a very prominent story that he too was interested in. Even Yua didn't like me. She was just trying to get close to me for some reason of her own. Based on newspaper clippings? Maybe she was going to turn me over to the police. Maybe she was going to threaten me. Oh, that's right, because he thinks somebody might have seen him at the murder site. That's right. Never mind. This was awful. Just awful. Just when I was so close to forgetting all about that murder. The cops had never come to say anything. I'd convinced myself that I'd never have to deal with it again. I didn't want to get involved. What was Yua after? I turned around so I could run. Reach for the sky, but Yua grabbed my wrist from behind. Haha, yeah, that's right, get him. Her voice made me shudder. It was so cold I thought I might freeze. She didn't seem anything like the girl I'd been talking to a moment ago. And that's the noise he just made. She was gripping my wrist with incredible strength. Girls don't have that. She was holding it so tightly that it was physically painful. I thought for a moment that she might crush my bones. It hurt so bad. Doc Ock style. I tried to shake her off, but she wouldn't let go. Instead, she pulled me closer, and I almost fell backwards. Nice boots. She whispered, in an emotionless voice, right behind me and right into my ear. I shivered and slowly turned around. Is this the bad end? Oh, maybe I should have activated those delusions. Oops. The color in her eyes was insane. Green. The mark of evil. I sure as shit wasn't. I sure was. Hiding something? There was only one thing I could think of. Somehow, for some reason, she knew that I'd witnessed the crucified corpse and the killer. That's why she'd approached me. She really was a clever one. Everything she'd ever said to me was a lie. That she'd gotten curious about me when she saw me for the first time. That she liked Bloodtune. That she wanted to go buy the Seda post-awakening version figure on the day it came out with me. When she'd smiled at something I'd said. When she'd said she wanted to get to know me better. When she said she was worried that I didn't come to school. Even when she said I'd impressed her by coming to school. It was all lies. I was dumb and easy to trick. I clenched my fists in rage and anger. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Why was I ever willing to believe her? Shouldn't the word facade have that little, whatever it's called, under the C? I mean, that's nitpicking, because I know a lot of, I don't know what this was coded. Oh, I know it's CryEngine, but I know. So I made my visual novel in Ren'Py, and it's really finicky when you try and do any text that has like alterations to letters, like tildes or anything like that. It just can't stand it. Umlauts, carrots, it doesn't want that shit. There's a story I want you to hear. I mean, I ain't got a choice. You still grabbing my wrist. If I won't listen, then what? She was like a totally different person now. That peaceful, easygoing manner she'd had was completely gone. Now she looked cold and unapproachable, with a terrible intensity about her. I'm gonna save. I don't think there's anything in the first chapter that'll put you on like bad ends, because that would be fucking abominable, but better safe than sorry. Now she looked cold and unapproachable, yeah. Her words were cold as ice and cold as death itself. The signs of weakness and helplessness she normally showed were nowhere to be found. I didn't want to hear those words. I tried to close my ears, but I couldn't. She still had my wrist in her grasp. She wasn't gripping it as tightly as before, but she still wouldn't let go. I couldn't move my hand. She broke it. With her free hand, she reached into her bag and took out something metallic and showed it to me. This is a knife. Egads, I gasped in shock. She came to your room, dude. You threw that shit against the door. She took it. You're an idiot. My heart felt like it was about to leap out of my chest. My mind began to race. I had my free hand over my ear, but I let it drop, and I heard her voice, sounding slightly disappointed. Of course I did. I knew exactly what it was. It looked like a cross, but it was actually a stake. Not many stakes had such an elaborate design. Elaborate? It's a cross. At least I'd only seen some once before. That night, scattered on the road. That night, pounded by the demon woman into the wall. That night, pinning the corpse to the wall. Shit, I do recognize it, yeah. I shook my head desperately. An awful sweat was forming on my brow. All I could do was try to wipe it off as I shook my head no. Egads. I've been found out. When did she search my room? The day we first met? When I hurt my leg and she walked me home? When she was staring with shining eyes and a cute face at the Santa figure? You mean your interest in my creepy figurines was all a lie? It was all a ruse so that you could search for murder weapons? It isn't made in Japan. They don't make steaks like this in Japan. No metallurgy in Japan. Is it the same? I was sure of it. This girl thought I was behind the new gen killings. She thought I was the murderer. Was she trying to be some kind of detective? Yua Kusunoki, teen detective? You know what I thought? Die, bitch. Oh, fucking Christ. I meant it too. They weren't just empty words. I mean, this stuff might have worked in an anime or a video game. Fucking Death Note style. Just write her name, Yua Kusunoki. But I knew that her theory had a fatal flaw. I'd seen the killer. I'd seen her with my own eyes, that demon. The girl whose name I didn't know. She wore a Suime uniform. She was close. She looked down and sighed softly. Her grip relaxed, and at last I was freed. Nothing more, nothing less. What did you mean by
まだ
yet?
言うつもり。それじゃあもう一つ確認させてください。あなたには予知能力があり
Can
ます
you see the future?
は
Mm-mm. My jaw dropped. See the future? What the hell is she talking about? What did that have to do with the murder? I stood there, confused, as Yua reached into her bag and pulled out several full-color printouts.
予知能力があるって思わなきゃ納得できないような画像データをあなたが持っていたから。
The Guro photos that Shogun sent me. Why did Yua have them?
これ
あなたはどうしてニュージェネ第3の事件の再現画像を持っているんですか？しかもこの画像が流出したのは事件の前日。
Oh my
あな
god.
たの使った PC にキャッシュが残ってました。
違う
No, she looked in my Hatsune Miku folder and found all the murder photos. I got those photos from some guy named Shogun that I'd never even met before that day. I didn't make them. They should still be in my download history. I know, I could show them to Yua. Wait, where did she get these? How did she know they were still in my computer's cache? When she came into my room, she wasn't there long enough to search my
ま
computer.
さか君が将軍か
Was she trying to set me up? Was Yua behind this whole thing? Was she one of the new gen killers trying to use me as a scapegoat to distract the police from the truth? The truth is out there. I want to believe.
助けて
This wasn't fair. Why me? Because I'm a creepy loser? Because I don't have any friends? Yua just shook her head silently like, oh, this fucking guy. This clown comic.
その画像はアットカフェルーム37
I found these pictures on the PC in room 37. Oh, at cafe.
あなたの PC もできれば調べたかったんですけど、その機会はさすがにありませんでした。
She looked just the slightest bit sorry as she stared at me. For just a single second, she looked like the old Yua. She kept that expression on her face as she rustled through her bag again. This time she took out a sheet with printed text on it and offered it to me. I had an awful premonition. The logical part of my mind told me I shouldn't look. But I had to. If I didn't find some way to resist, they'd pin it on me.
それがあなたのすべてです。
This is everything I am? Is it just a piece of paper that says loser? My heart pounded as I looked at the printout, but instead of my private information, it was just a chat log. It was a log of Nightheart, excuse me, and Shogun. Oh fuck Gazoop. All them Gazoop images. What's strange? It was just a normal chat log. I remembered the conversation I had with Shogun.
ナイトハルトと将軍の
9:28 at 3:18 a.m. presumably, and then it goes to 9:29 at oh my god, it skips ahead a day.
発言時間が全
The
然
timestamps don't
離れ
match
てない
at all.
Oh.
Oh. Huh? What was this? What was this? What's going on?
そこにあるナイトハルトは西条区。発言時間は9月28日
And he's
の午前
talking.
3時
Oh, that's crazy.
そして翌日あなたはアットカフェに行ってます。西条くんがアットカフェに行くのは学校が
You always go to at cafe after you leave school.
そして学校に行くのは週に 2.5 回。あなたのクラスメイトから聞いたんですけど、先週あなた月曜日、水曜日、木曜日、
Yotsuyobi, Suyobi, Mokuyobi.
先週の月曜日は9月
The Monday of last week was September 29th, the same day Shogun was in the chat. Yeah, at 3:15. What is she talking about?
ルーム37の PC のチャットログを調べさせて、そこから分かったことは
She paused for just a moment before looking right at me and delivering a cruel truth.
あなた一人の自作自演。
Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
あなた自身。
Fuck. Game over.
何も見たくない
I don't want to see anything.
何も聞きたくない 時間は一定じゃない。記憶には矛盾がある。視界にはエラーがある。地球は回ってない。これはきっとゲームなんだ。
I mean, this is a game. That's very true. I turned on my computer and took a bite out of a fish sausage. Groucho Soft Mindors. Perfect. That's pretty good.
僕は
Uh,
僕じゃない。僕がいるべき世界は
I booted up ESO without the slightest hesitation.
ここじゃないんだ。
Hooray! We finished a chapter. Beep beep, I'm a sheep. Anybody going on the field trip, get on. Takumi Nishijo lay on the tatami mat, a colored pencil in his hand. This time it was yellow. Just a few minutes ago, it had been red. He was happily scribbling with his pencil across the whole of his open sketchbook. Takumi liked to draw. Even during class, he was always scribbling something in the corner of his notebook. The TV was turned on, showing the morning news. For a fourth grader like him, though, the news was boring. He didn't look at it at all. Beep beep, I'm a sheep. You can't bring more than 300 yen for snacks. He was drawing a yellow bus and pretending he was the bus driver. The bus is full, so off we go. Whoosh. He envisioned the scene in his head as he put it onto the page. It wasn't uncommon for him to get too excited and let his pencil go off the sketchbook and onto the tatami mat. Whenever that happened, his little sister Nanami would yell, "Hey, don't mess up the mat." She was a little brat, and he didn't care. He kept drawing anyway. When it came time to draw the passengers on the bus, he suddenly stopped. I don't like passengers. I don't want anybody on this bus. Is empty. This is a tour bus. But then he ripped the sketchbook up. Fuck sketches. Yesterday, the day before he was supposed to go on the class's fall field trip, he'd suddenly been told by his parents that he couldn't go. He'd been looking forward to it for a long time. He'd been excited the whole day. So when his parents told him, he refused to accept it. He cried and said he was going to go no matter what. But it didn't matter. No matter what he said, his parents wouldn't listen. We're saying this for your sake. It's impossible for you. And that's all they would say. So, he undid his covers and got mad. So mad he thought he might tear his blanket apart. He hated his parents from the bottom of his heart. That's how important, how critical the field trip was to little 4th grade Takumi. Everybody else got to go, but he didn't. From his perspective, it was totally unfair. In his mind, there were two worlds. A lonely world where he was the only resident, and a fun world where everyone else got to be. He hated his teacher and his classmates for going without him, and he hated his parents for telling him he couldn't go. It wasn't long before that hatred boiled over. He bit his lip so hard he drew blood, and began to mutter a curse over and over. Gonna stake you all to walls. I wish nobody got to go. Is that what it is? His delusion is that he wished them all dead. The next morning, the phone started ringing really early. His mom would pick it up and answer it, seemingly shaken by something. She'd set it down, and a little later, it would ring again. Takumi couldn't sleep at all. It was past 9 a.m. Nanami was sitting on a cushion reading manga. She'd said, "I'll stay home from school with you" the day before, and so there she was, the little brat, wanting to make him feel better. His dad had gone into work and was nowhere to be seen. His mom was so busy answering the phone that she hadn't made breakfast. Damn, today he didn't need to go to school. Glumly, he began to draw in his sketchbook. But it did nothing to help assuage his anger, and just when he'd ripped it up in frustration. Uh-oh, konobasu wa. There was a note of worry in Nanami's voice. He thought she was talking about his picture, but her eyes were glued to the TV set. Suddenly she called out for their mom, who was still talking on the phone. Takumi looked disinterestedly over at the TV. It was showing a collapsed bridge on the highway. Only a small 50-meter section of the bridge had collapsed. A bus had been traveling right over the bridge at the time and had fallen through the hole. It was the bus Takumi was supposed to have been on. It was the one his classmates were all on. In a single instant, Takumi was able to envision almost everything that had happened. His classmates were all there. Some were crying, some had faces covered in blood, one was being carried off in a stretcher. A reporter was explaining the accident with a stern expression on his face, but Takumi couldn't understand what he was talking about. It doesn't seem too difficult. I mean, his mom was standing in the room's doorway, holding the phone in her hand and looking deathly pale. You can't go because of premonitions. Oh no, not Saito-sensei. For some reason, Takumi was sure of it, because everything he was seeing on the TV was just like the scene he'd envisioned last night in his frustration and anger. In his mind, there was only a single thought, a strange certainty that he had the ability to see the future. He remembered a TV program he'd seen years ago about whether or not psychic powers were real or not. There was a psychic on the show who could see the future and put their powers to incredible use during the test the show had given. At the time, it was a huge deal. In the test, 12 items were put into 12 boxes numbered 1 to 12, and they had to guess which one would be put in which. The psychic would be in another room before anything happened and make their guesses there. Afterward, the show's staff would put the items into the boxes and the results would be checked. Astonishingly, the psychic was 90% accurate, amazing the rest of the cast. Yeah, you can't be 100%, otherwise people would be suspicious. Takumi had been watching the show, and he'd made his own predictions as well. Every single one was right. Ah, there it is. Of course, he'd never told anybody this. But that's why now he thought he'd foretold the crash unfolding on the screen. How awful. His mother tried to reach down and pick him up, but he slid past her and crawled to the corner of the room. She whispered in a hollow voice, her gaze wandering around the room. So could she see the future too? Takumi felt like he was about to throw up. It was all rotten, he thought. Rotten garbage. What good was seeing the future? In that moment, he felt his heart turn cold. I'm gonna be an otaku loser for the rest of my life. That was when he knew. For a while, he didn't talk to anyone. He became completely silent. He didn't say a single word to a single person. His parents were already overprotective, but this only made it worse. He gradually started to find them ridiculous and began to keep up his silent act deliberately. That was his way of getting back at his parents, he thought. He was so quiet that when they took him to a psychiatrist at a general hospital, he was diagnosed with PTSD. Of course, he didn't have PTSD, so he never took the medicine they gave him. He just pretended to take it. He just did one of those little... Oh, he threw it behind him. Fucking Emperor's New Groove style. His parents never picked up on the act because they're dumb as shit, apparently. And even when he saw how worried and miserable they looked, he didn't feel the slightest bit guilty. My survivor's guilt is their fault. It all felt like a lie. The whole world was filled with fiction. It was filled with evil. Evil that was out to get me. Not if I don't wanna. After her bizarre speech, she added that last sentence, and then left. Of course, I couldn't believe her. How could I believe her when she'd lied to me? The everything I was, that she'd shown me, was something I refused to accept No matter what, I wanted to believe there was no way I could be Shogun. But from the timestamps on the chat log, it was clear that the conversation didn't make sense.
僕は無遊病なの
Sleepwalking. At the time that Shogun had sent the messages, I hadn't been asleep. I'd been at cafe, sure, but I hadn't been asleep. I couldn't have been sleepwalking. Then why didn't I have any memories at all of writing these comments as Shogun? Was my body under somebody else's control? The very idea was ridiculous. I decided what I needed to escape from all the lies was some good old ESO, my other fictional world. Yeah, things are going a little bit rough right now. Just get into those video games. In ESO, everything was a lie. It was just a game after all. But in Baselard, I could be Nightheart, a godlike being. If only the lies and fictions could be like this, I could accept that reality. I wanted to be here forever. What's wrong with that? Or maybe ESO's world was the real world, and this one was fake. This one was the game. Takumi Nishijo was just a fictional character, and my true identity was Nightheart. If only, if only.
ね
Yeah, if only I was my super powerful creative
Nightheart.
character. I called out to the paladin on the screen. Am I controlling you, or are you controlling me? Are you the real person and I'm the avatar? No, because who would ever want to play as you? What if the world I'm in is a game? If that was the case, it would explain everything. If somebody was staring at me right now, just like how I was staring at Nightheart, whose eyes are those? Are they mine? Is he talking? What's he say fuck me for? The answer to that question would be the player controlling me. Hey, yo, I got mentioned. He's talking about me. If that was the case, I wish they'd stop sucking at the game so much. Dude, I ain't got nothing to do with this. The only thing I could do is press this one button. That's it. You can't blame me. The AI's doing shit on his own. It would explain how Shogun and I could be the same person. It was like with Lies a Lot. Lies a Lot and Nightheart couldn't exist in Baselard at the same time, but they both had, because they both had the same player, me. Maybe in the same way, Takumi Nishijo and Shogun couldn't both exist in the world at the same time. Or maybe it was like a bug. Speaking of bugs, maybe these strange women appearing in the murder cases are all bugs too. A weird thing to say about women. Maybe they're bugs, insects. The images Shogun sent me flashed through my mind, and I winced. I shook my head desperately. I wanted to run away from everything. If there is a player controlling me, then please reset the game. Yeah, let me go back to the beginning so we could do this all over again. Just start over from character creation. Okay. The waiting room at the university hospital was filled to overflowing with old people waiting for their exams. Nothing had changed since I'd first come here several years ago. It was as if time itself had stopped. Everyone wore a gloomy expression. Between that and the stench of disinfectant, the air was heavy and stale. 5 minutes in this room was enough to make you want to kill yourself. Jesus Christ. I didn't like hospitals. The lobbies were filled with people, but once you went down a hallway, it felt like you were completely alone. They'd always really scared me. It felt like the hallways were full of the stench of death. It always seemed to me that death was the true face of a hospital, and if you went further down the hallways, you'd find even more terrifying, awful secrets. So, to tell the truth, I didn't want to come. But there was something I had to know, and so I had no choice but to sit here waiting for my exam. Even while I was playing ESO, the words Yua had said kept spinning through my mind, and I couldn't concentrate at all. I ended up staying awake all night, imagining all kinds of terrible things, and started to get really scared of there being something wrong with me. Nah, You're perfect. At last, I decided to go to a hospital, so I could get a doctor to tell me that I was completely normal. I wanted to prove that Yua was the crazy one, not me. So they're like, can I see the future? And they were like, yeah, you're sane. Get out of here. I was used to coming to the psych ward of this hospital. When the lady at the front desk had asked me if it was my first time here, I nodded without thinking about it. But it wasn't my first time at all. Ever since the bus accident, my parents had taken me here on a regular basis. When I got to middle school, my doctor told me I was completely cured and I'd stopped going. It had been about 4.5 years since I'd last come here. The first doctor to look at me was an old man who was supposedly an authority in his field, but he'd only talked to me the first few times before handing me off to one of his students. Of course, his student wasn't that much younger either. If anything, he'd looked older than the first one. That doctor, Dr. Takashina, had said something to me that I'd remembered last night.
ここは病気や怪我だけじゃなくて心にも効く病院なんだよ。
Yeah, fucking stethoscope. That stethoscope is buried in this dude's ear canal. Like, holy shit, that shit's touching his brain. I didn't like the hospital, but he was really nice. And he seemed like a really good guy. Not that this had stopped me. I'd kept up my act of deceiving the adults. It was Dr. Takashina who had seen through my deception, though, and given me an official diagnosis of completely cured.
あの人に調べてもらえれば。
What would he say if he knew I'd grown up to be a creepy otaku? He probably wouldn't even remember me. Now, he probably got that vibe from me right away, like, this kid ain't gonna be good. I waited another 3 hours before they finally called my name. Jesus Christ. That's crazy. It was a different exam room than the one I'd been seen in 4 years ago, but I was welcomed by a face I recognized. He was the very image of a trustworthy older man. He looked older than he probably was, but he had a kind expression, and that kindness came across in his mannerisms and way of talking. He hadn't changed at all in the 4 years since I'd last seen him. I wondered if he'd even aged at all, not that I was even sure how old he was. The desire to beg him for help grew stronger and stronger within me. He was somebody I could count on. He was somebody who would save me. I was so happy to see him again. Until I heard the first thing he said.
今日は
You're
どうし
fucked.
ました
His voice was soft and gentle and put you at ease, but there wasn't the sense of friendliness I'd seen when I came here before. Yeah, because you were a little kid, and now you're a creepy teenager he doesn't want to deal with. Like, there's reasons for those kind of things. He's gonna be nicer because you're a little kid. I feel like similar scenes, like maybe even like a similar character is in Chaos Child, which would make sense given it's like a sequel, but I haven't played that game in years, so it's weird that I'm getting, I don't know, memories of it. It was like he was talking to me for the first time. You mean he didn't recognize me from when I was fucking 12 to 17? That's crazy. I couldn't handle it, so I decided to remind him.
西条です。
んああ、これはご丁寧に。
I meet thousands of Nishijos every day, brother.
高階です。はじめまして。
He bowed to me. I couldn't say anything. Nice to meet you. That's what he had just said. Nice to meet you. He'd forgotten me. It made sense. It's been 4 years, after all. But I thought that he, of all people, would remember me. I'd kind of had that hope, whether it was fair or not. When that hope was shattered, it made me sadder. It felt like it didn't matter. Because it doesn't matter, brother. He looked me in the eye as he spoke, but I looked away. I don't want to look at this doctor anymore. I don't like this guy anymore. I don't want to deal with him.
無遊病かどうか調べてほしいと
You
書
seem
い
to
てあ
find
る
out
な
if you're sleepwalking. Yeah, I gotta know this kind of stuff, man. I'm worried. Did something happen? That's right. That's what I said on the form. I wrote sleepwalking, and he was like, I just need them to tell me that I'm good and that I'm not. It didn't matter now. Even if he didn't even remember me,
別にいいじゃん。
it's Sarah is the problem. She's the villain.
先生が覚えてようが覚えてなかろうが関係ないっしょ。最初の目的を忘れちゃダメ。
All right. I didn't come here to see Dr. Takashina. I come to prove I was normal. And after that, who would doubt it? Seeing him again was just a bonus. What did it matter if he forgot me? If Seita-tan hadn't reminded me, I might have broken down right there. Phew.
自分でも知らないうちに外に出かけててパソコンで。
おお。
You're doing great, buddy. Just keep it up.
知り合いからそう指摘されて混乱しちゃって。
I think we're going to be wrapping it up soon. I'm starting to feel my throat get a little scratchy from doing all this talking.
その知り合いの人が冗談を言っているっていう可能性は
Do you think you're being fucked
ある
with?
と思うかい？
Oop, accidentally hit auto. Yua's eyes had been dead serious. She didn't look like she was teasing me. She was like... She didn't go... Which is what I would have expected her to do if she was kidding.
わかりません。
なるほど。ちなみにその知り合いとはどういう関係だろう？
Is it a girlfriend? Perhaps somebody that you met within... Oh... the last week or so. You've only known her for a few days and she decided to tell you this. We get this all the time, sir. What was this guy talking about? What did that have to do with anything?
いや、言い方が悪かったかな。
I'm a profoundly bad doctor.
その知り合いの人は君が意識もないまま歩き回っているのを
See, it's a bunch of fucking bullshit. Oh, is that what he meant? I shook my head.
じゃあ証拠はないわけだ。
Do you have any evidence of it? Then it doesn't exist.
そいつ探偵気取りっていろいろ証拠を突きつけ。
そういうことか。
I think maybe this doctor should step in. Like, clearly this dude's like on the verge of a fucking breakdown. You know, maybe want to do something.
ちなみにこれまでにも無遊
いえ。
朝目覚めたらいつものベッドじゃなくて違う場所で寝てたっていうことは
No, well, I've been playing him.
一度でもあった？